Oh, that's Cindy Lauper. Every girl just wants to have fun, even some boys. Anyway, you're locked on to DRN1 Drive, and Jason's not here, but I am joined by the wonderful Jackie Campbell from Arkham and she's the brand new host to a brand new show landing on DRN1. Well, technically, it's already landed. It's called Women in Business. Welcome, Jackie.
Well, thank you, Russell. Thanks for having me, squeezing me in at the last minute. I appreciate it.
It's how we organise things when people get sick, is just roll with it.
Just absolutely. Well, isn't that small business the world over? You just roll with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for people who don't know you, give us your elevator pitch. Who is Jackie Campbell?
Oh, yeah, good. Thanks for the heads up. And here we are, thinking we're just going to chat. Rightio. Who is Jackie Campbell? I'm not sure the world's ready to needs to even hear this, but I am what would you call it? A small business marketing coach, working very much in a personal brand space. So as small business owners, we are our brand. There's bugger all we can do about that. So we do have to step up and we do have to sort of kind of show up. And that for me is all about choosing to be seen as a confident leader within your niche once you've worked out what that is. So that's what I do. I have the best time ever. I spend lots of time talking, lots of time listening, and helping people to unpack their stories and see how they can show up in the world to be seen really confidently so that they can feel like they can say, hey, this is my business, this is what I do. You can see the value in what I do, so you can charge well for it, but making sure they don't feel like they're showing their knickers at the same time.
Well, now you've been in business for quite some time. I'm not going to put an age range, not a year range. What's the number one mistake you see businesses making?
Um, Thank you for your lack of age reference. I do appreciate that. I've been actually in business. I was working out the other day. Went into business for myself full time, actually in 2001. So it's been 22 years, almost 23
Congrats.
years. I've been working for myself. So corporate career before that. So I know what it's like to work in that space and chose to do something different. The main thing I think I see people within small businesses doing is they look over the fence or they look at corporate and they go, oh, I do this. I'm an accountant or I'm a coach or I'm a whatever. This is how I have to be. This is how I should show up. Accountants look like. This is what marketers look like. And so they get so obsessed almost to the point of distraction of trying to be what they think their client wants rather than just going, you know what? I mostly know what I'm talking some of the time, mostly know what I'm doing, sorry, most of the time. I can show up as me and my tribe will find me.
Hmm.
So showing up as themselves, it can be scary, particularly where you're using your knowledge or your skills as a service-based thing, which a lot of small businesses do,
Mm-hmm.
is to say, I'm going to put a price on that. This is what it costs me to serve. I'm I'm actually going to charge for what I love to do, and that can be really tricky. And then you think, oh crumbs, people aren't going to want me, and they listen to the guy in a little green t-shirt which says, no, no, you've got no right to be here. And you start to say, well, I can't be me. I need to be that person over there. They're successful, so I'm going to be like them.
But
And you lose yourself along the way. And if you're not showing up as you, the people who would love to work with you, who just are the most awesome people and the
mm,
fit for your business, can't find you because they don't know who you are.
no, absolutely. And let's be honest, we all have our idols in business and we all have the people that we look up to. But realistically, you're never going to be like your idol because you didn't have the life that they had. Your life is very
Very
unique.
true.
The journey that you're on is your journey. It's no one else's journey. You
Absolutely.
can bring people on the bus, but sooner or later they got to get off. So
Right. Noted. Note to self. Make sure I'm at the back of Russell's bus so he can't kick me off. Got it. Noted. Done.
well, you know what I mean. Like, there are some people that like that. It was very interesting. As we're live on air, everyone's starting to call me at the same time. But,
Of course.
of course. Um, Now that's throwing me off. It is really interesting though, because there are some people that you go, oh, okay, I'm going to go into business with you. We're best friends, and then, or maybe you're partners, and then all of a sudden you break up, and well, what normally happens? Either the business falls apart, or you hate each other's guts.
Mm.
That's normally what happens. I don't know very many broken relationships that or broken partners that end up being friends and still running a business. But what is your advice to anyone that is in a relationship with their partner running a business? Because I know that you've seen it firsthand. Businesses that were in that love triangle, and all of a sudden that triangle has fallen apart, and now they've got three straight lines, and they're trying to navigate it.
Oh, I love that analogy. My triangle fell apart. I now have three straight lines. Well, for those of us who are from the other country, then that's two, well, three quarters of a set of goals, so that's fine. But I think the main thing, and my husband and I have been business partners before. We've been in business together. He's reported to me on when we were in corporate land, and all sorts of tales to be told. And I think the main thing is that it's a bit like going into any sort of marriage or any sort of relationship. You don't go in to something like that expecting it to fail. If you
Mm,
did, you wouldn't. So the question is, when you start to set things up, do you set things up thinking, if this fails, then this is going to happen, and this is how we're going to break up? Because I think that sets up the wrong tone. But the value is, if you flip it around, you end up with the same result.
mm,
If we do this business together, say you and I decided we were going to do a business together,
yes.
rather than thinking, oh, well, hang on a minute, Jackie and Russell might break up. And be that, I mean, I've broken up with clients, and I think one of the most satisfying milestones in any small business journey is the first time you fire a client.
You mean get
That's
them off the
that's
bus? You mean kick them off the
Yeah,
bus?
you kick them off your bus. Yeah, this is my bus, get off. Yeah, the first time you kick them off the bus and say, you'll take a triangle somewhere else. But the thing about that is, if you think about it in a way that says, if this business scales
Mm,
and it becomes bigger than we think it's going to be with just the two of us, how do we manage that?
mm,
It's a different mindset. You go, okay, cool. So if we scale, do we bring on other partners? Is that possible? How do we set equity in this? How do we scale this business? And you can problem solve it that way. The other option is, well, a similar option, or an alternative, depending on which way you think about it, is, how do I exit this business?
mm,
So when I choose to retire, you assume that the relationship is going to be awesome. You are going to go from strength to strength to strength to strength to create something which is a great legacy. But nobody wants to work forever. So what is my exit strategy from this business? So you and I would have a conversation that says, okay, cool. So when we scale, business awesome to be business super awesome, how are we getting out of this, mate?
yeah.
How do we leave this behind? Are we selling it? And if you think about an exit strategy from we scaled it and it's huge, or we want to retire perspective, and you set your business up the structure wise and with agreements in place that allows a partner to exit for whatever reason,
Mm,
then the business side of things are taken care of. So you've got those provisions in place. I can buy you out, you can buy me out. I want to retire, you don't. What does that look like? And that's a healthy way of saying, hey, when we succeed awesomely, this will be happen. But you can use the same things if the relationship breaks down. Those
yeah.
structures are already in place.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
other thing I would suggest is, particularly with a partner that you then live with, small businesses, they become a representation almost of how we show up in the world.
Mm,
Ask anybody who is sister, brother, aunt, uncle, family member to a small business owner. Small business owners are obsessive about what we do. We go, oh, this is all the things. Let me tell you all the things. I just said, this is going on. And it's like this is the only thing we have in our lives.
well, it
When
is.
you're
Let's be
networking, that's
honest.
fine. Yeah, when you're networking, that's fine because you're allowed to talk about it. But if you're spilling into hour 2 of the family barbecue, you're still talking about your business.
Mm.
Chances are, unless the other people you're talking to also own small businesses, they've stopped listening. So when it comes
Absolutely.
to taking your business home, it can take over your entire life.
Mm.
So my recommendation there is to put some boundaries around it. So if I can use an example from my past,
Okay.
my husband and I used to work together in a big mining company.
Yep.
And when we came, he used to jump in the same car and drive home with me. At that stage, due to a business restructure, he reported to me too, which was kind of interesting at the time. But anyway, we weren't
That's
married.
another
We just worked
conversation
together.
there.
It's another conversation. But he was supposed to catch the bus home for his role, but I had a car for mine. So he used to jump in with me and come home. So as we drove away from the mine site, and the town's quite close, there was this rail bridge that used to go across the road. And we had a rule: no work talk past the rail bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on at least two, if not three occasions, I remember distinctly pulling over, finishing the conversation, then driving under the rail bridge to get to
Oh,
home.
that's kind of cute. That's really
And
cute.
on one particularly momentous discussion, we got in the car, drove back under the rail bridge, and had what I can only describe as a animated conversation
Oh.
about a work thing. But again, it's creating that separation. Now,
Mm.
when you're in business with your partner from a small business point of view, that can be really difficult.
Well, there's
But
definitely no
what?
bridges anymore in
No,
that we can
no,
go on.
no. But you can sort of kind of say, you know, we talk about designate a space in your home. This is the home office.
Yep.
This is where conversations on business happen. Not at the kitchen table, not in the lounge room in front of the footy, and definitely not in your bedroom.
No,
That's
no.
you know.
That doesn't leave
But
very
you can
many
also,
places, Jackie. That really doesn't leave many places.
well, when you live on a boat like I do, no, it doesn't. But
Oh,
it does if you can create some of those boundaries and then honor and respect each other enough to say, hang on a minute, this is a conversation that we need to have here. And hold meetings. I know family businesses often don't hold meetings, particularly
mm,
when there's only two of you. But if you have that fortnightly, weekly catch up where you get all those things out, this is the milestones, this is how it's going, you can kind of corral it. I'm not saying it's a perfect recipe,
yep.
but if you have those conversations, this is important to me because, or this is I want to stop this because, um, the same as you would talk to a respected business partner. Just because you happen to be married to them doesn't mean, or in a relationship with them doesn't mean that that's the thing. But it can be really, really tricky, and sometimes you just need to find a third person
Yep,
and
absolutely.
go, "Hey, this is what we think, buddy, oh pal, oh buddy, oh pal, please help."
Yes. So now we talked about small businesses, and you come from, as you said, some quite large corporate businesses. You are doing a brand new show here on Dairy One called Women in Business. What? Tell us a little bit about the show, and what can we expect?
Thanks very well. Um, I have to confess, I really, 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 really resisted the title when we,
Yes.
and the reason that is because I firmly believe that it's difficult to level a playing field when we're constantly creating segregation.
Mm.
So, women in business, the complimentary show should be men in business. But if there was a men in business show, people would go, "Oh my goodness, that's horrendous." It's like the business awards. You've got the Telstra Women's Award. Why
Yes.
can't we just have Telstra Business Awards? And I think in that space we should do. And the reason I'm saying that is this: I get having segregated sport.
Mm-hmm.
It does not make sense to have, from a physical capability point of view, to have men and women competing at an elite level in the same sports. It doesn't make
Yes.
sense. I mean, look at even in gymnastics where you've got highly elite and trained people. You couldn't compete in the same events because the physical makeup of where your muscles sit for someone to do the rings versus someone to do a balance beam, it wouldn't work. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to business, it's like, is a female-led business any better or worse than a male-led business?
Oh, I don't know.
And I would argue not.
Yeah.
Sorry, Russ, I cut over you.
No, no. I was going to say, I'm sure women know how to control a room better than men do.
Sometimes. But what it came to, I did resist being part of a women's only group for a long time because my initial thinking in that space was, hang on a minute, do we I mean, I've spent a long type of sorry, I just got a text story from a mutual friend of ours. I'll share that with you in a minute.
Okay.
Um, and I just realised they're listening in the kitchen. How rude.
Great.
That's fine. We've still got some listeners.
Keep the text
But the
coming,
interesting,
people.
but the interesting thing about it all is that when you actually create these separate areas, do you set up a space where you've got competition where you're trying to bring people together? And what I realised when I first thought, I don't want to be a women only group, that's ridiculous. I've worked in a male dominated industry for a very, very long time and I can hold my own. I need to prove that we're just as good as everybody else.
Mm.
But what I realized when I actually became part of a very strong business network, which is all women, was that we think differently, we behave differently, and we learn differently.
Yep.
And as a result, the reason that and I'm not saying that we need representation, but so often you hear the guys will speak on our behalf. It's like, you know what? We're actually perfectly capable of speaking for ourselves, but we need to sort of kind of hold hands to do it, which I know sounds a bit strange. But women think collectively as opposed to competitively. And this is not all women. I'm drawing big brushes. I'm sure there's going to be 1,000 complaints to that comment.
Well,
and I'm not trying to sit there and say, hey, we're special. But collaboration, typically between women business owners and women founders, particularly, is far more interactive, generally speaking, than you will find in a male-dominated industry. When I was working in a male-dominated industry, and don't get me wrong, I loved it. I loved everything about mining, construction. I love the dirt. I love the language. I love the equipment and all of the stuff. But I find, as far as running my business goes, when I'm surrounded by other women who are doing the thing, going where I want to go, the conversations we have are different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I thought, well, women in business isn't a bad idea as long as we get the context right. As long as we're setting it up in a way that is about sharing our stories and learning and supporting and collaborating and making us realize that, hey, we're not alone and it's okay to sometimes sit in your car and bawl your eyes out because the day has been crap and you're going home and you're not having your best day. We don't need to show up and go, oh, we're killing it. It's awesome. You can have a space where you can go, you know what? I've just hit a wall and I've got no friggin' idea what I'm going to do about it.
Well, let's be honest.
Anybody?
Everyone goes through that. It doesn't matter. You don't have to define genders on that case. I think all male business owners, when they start out, or maybe even when they're not, like they might be very successful and they might just have a bad day or a bad month. We all have emotions. Like crying is not exclusively for girls. Boys do cry too.
Yes, having two sons, I appreciate that.
But it is interesting because your show called Women in Business, it is interviewing some inspirational women. Now, your first episode was not introducing a woman; it was chatting to me, and this is where we talked about the Telstra Business Awards and all that kind of lovely stuff. But you raised something very interesting there, which was, and we talked about it in the first episode, which was this project has taken us here at DRM1 4 years to get this project off the ground. And when I said, well, I can't speak on behalf of women, women can speak for themselves, you were like, well, I didn't realize that we're in a similar box of disability. Not your words exactly, but go watch the video and you'll hear Jackie explain how she felt when I said that. But why do you think like a show like Women in Business is so important for women as well as men? Because men will listen to it too. But what are you hoping to get out of the show?
One of my favorite things to do is to create and hold spaces where people can choose to show up where things aren't perfect and to take that first step and be themselves in a way that, let's face it, the first few times you tune up as yourself, it can scare the absolute hell out of you. And I mean, I'd love to, and it's not just a case of doing that for guys. Obviously, I run TEDx and I do some other bits and pieces there. It's about creating spaces. But a bit like niching a small business, I believe that you can't hold a space for all of the people at the same time, if that makes sense. And while I'd love to run a men in business show, because I think that would be really cool, just to see what shit we can stir up, to be honest.
Yep.
Men in business, and I think it would be really interesting to have those conversations, and for people to hear, or for other men to hear that what the voice which is going on in their head, they are actually not alone either.
Well, that's called beer and booze.
But why do we have to brand it like that?
We don't. I just think it would be fun.
But you know what I mean. It's interesting. And that's a classic example of the whole. What I would say is that the bluff and bluster, which has to go with men turning up in business. We expect aggression and we expect confidence and we expect things. Now, that's not to say that women aren't confident as well. We just show it differently.
Yeah.
And we problem solve differently. And it took me a long time to accept that's okay and that being different is okay. I would love to have a show which also talked about the struggles and the triumphs of people with disability who choose to run businesses, and people with First Nations people who choose to run businesses. And the reason that is, it's not to try and segregate, it's to try and collect, if that makes sense, so that you've got a space where people can share and inspire and journey with people who are running through something similar. So I think that like a men in business show would be interesting, because I think that the assumption around the way that guys choose to show up, they don't typically, again we're taking big broad brushes and painting walls with them, is they don't typically do that whole emotional thing of you're right mate, yeah you're right mate, we'll get a beer. That's the answer. Whereas women will go, are you all right? No, do you want to check? So you'll go and have a beer, but there'll be a whole conversation. Whereas I see my husband go out with, he's the CEO of a medium-sized organisation, and he makes sure he touches base with all of his guys. I mean, he's got more touchy feelings than you would normally expect from him. And he says, well, that's because I've spent 27 years with you. It's rubbing off. And honestly, the person that I met who was the farmer, the truck driver, was a different person than he is now as he's got older and mellowed, as he puts it. I don't know about wiser, but he's certainly mellowed. He's become more aware of. He works with an organisation which it's got to be the most neurolinguistically diverse group I've ever met. They have got an incredible group of people there from all over the world. They've got a number of disabilities. There's 2 dogs in the office, which are special assistance dogs, which are in the office, who are there all the time, one of which flies to site with the guys. You've got people who are, potentially flies to site with the guys. You've got people from a huge spectrum of neurodiversity. It's a fantastic place to work. But with that comes all these challenges. So that whole approach of, the blokes go, and you see them, they go, oh yeah, right, we'll go out for a beer. And you go out for a beer, and whether they do things differently because I'm there, I doubt. Because I've been so often considered, one of the blokes that's just who I've been. It's like, they don't talk. I mean, like, Dave will go out with his guys, and they'll drive in the car, and I'll sit in the back because they're chatting in the front. And my dad and him are sitting in front of the car, solving a problem, and they'll say like 9 words in an hour. And I'm going, okay, what's going on here? It's like, yeah, good chat. It's like, dude, you use like 6 words. That's not a chat.
It is interesting though. It is interesting though, because that comes from, if I look at my childhood, I'd say that comes from that upbringing there. Like, mums normally talk more than dads, and dads normally aren't home to build that relationship with their son normally, if in my childhood at least, and so the words with my dad are like yup, nup, like good, you're okay. It's not until, for example, my dad had a stroke or a heart attack, one of the two, not quite sure which one because he didn't go to the hospital, typical male.
And this is my point.
But it's not until that point that you go, oh crap, are you actually okay? Do you want to have a chat? Let's go play darts. Let's actually get to know each other again. But that's typical. It is. it is interesting. Hopefully, the day and age is moving on where men don't mind talking about their emotion. I know a bunch of businessmen that are down in Mandurah. I won't name anyone just to out them. But they're very comfortable with showing affection and asking how's your day gone.
Hmm.
But there is still that masculinity of, oh yeah, I'm okay. But then when they do say, oh, I've had a tough week, you go, okay, what happened? But it's
Oh, just stop.
yeah, just stuff, and then you have to really deep dig. But it is
Beat them over the head
interesting.
with a bottle of beer. Yeah.
You're like going, come on, let's get the gin out. Let's go to Olmot Brewing and actually drink some good beer. Cheeky plug for them. But it is actually a really typical thing, and I'm surprised that it's not the same for women as it is for men. Kind of not surprised as well because we just got to look at history. But times are changing, and your show, which has we've got Kat coming up this week, talking
Hmm.
about her business. Do you want to give a plug for that?
Well, actually, Kat is one of my famous fabulous business besties. So Kat Matson, she's based over in Brisbane. She's the ex CEO of. She's doing a lot of data and all of the marketing and the content and the digital presence for first of all Brisbane City Council, then out to Ipswich. But she's now gone out on her own, and she runs a really interesting business called Impactful Presenters. Now, this is all about. Kat teaches people to present with impact.
Mm-hmm.
So impactful presenters, which is a business, is all about that whole. It's great. I mean, for those of us who don't get too freaked out about public speaking, you can talk and entertain, and you get great rounds of applause at the end. Fabulous. But what was the purpose of you being on stage?
Mm.
Did your message land? What did you want your audience to do, or to think, or to action? So I have. I'm not known for my shortness of explanation, the brevity of my stories, or any of those things. And also, when I first started MidCat a number of years ago, one of the things which is so often the case is small business owners start to enter into this space where they are choosing to talk about their business and what they do and how they serve and their niche that they serve to.
Mm-hmm.
Is you suddenly feel like you're in a space where you have to prove that you know what you're talking about. You have to demonstrate immense value, and I know all of the things. I can help you with everything, and I know all about the subject. And what happens is, through that over talking and that oversharing, and you're almost down to your knickers sort of kind of thing, is your poor potential client sits there like under this fire hose of information, and they don't know what to take in, and they're just swallowing water as rapidly as they can. Their eyes glaze over and they go, oh my God. And they just sort of think, I just can't cope with you. And in a lot of cases, you oversell what you can do. And as a result, you swamp them and they don't know what to do with all that information.
Mm.
So one of the things Kat taught me to do, not always successfully, as you clearly I'm demonstrating now, is to just, for want of a better word, answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
and feel like there's spaces, and not sound like when I'm on my podcast or the radio or whatever else, like I am a racing squirrel, like I'm trying to get all of the words squashed into the 30-second break. Because the way that adults think is, and they learn new things, is they take the information that you're providing, they go, right, where does this go? What do I already know about this? And they take that new concept and they hang it on a frame that they're already aware of.
Sure.
So if you don't give them time to do that, to process those ideas and to hang them somewhere new, file them away for later, they don't get the information that you're giving them. And that's one of the things I've really learned from Kat, and it's really changed when I did her course, and I'm also a member of her membership. Um, that learning from her has given me that space to think, hang on a minute, what actually do these people need from me? What do I need to know? I'm not trying to justify my existence and explain my entire business. I can just deal with that. And when they ask for more, I can give them more.
Yep.
So that's a real skill, which I walked away from, obviously, a number of years of working with Kat, is that ability to say less and have a greater impact. And that's what she gives her clients, is the people that work with her. So she's actually got a course running, just opening now. So she's running the free webinars at the moment to go into her next course, which is an incredible investment. She works particularly with people who sit in the local government space, in corporate space, also small business owners.
Yep.
But she's not just limited to small business owners. So she hasn't niched right down to small business owners like I have, because she's worked in those local government areas and in art spaces. She sits on one of the symphony orchestra panels as well, boards
Yep.
as well. So really gets the industry and understands that, paring down that message so it has real impact. So if you've got someone who is, someone listening who is trying to go, geez, I do lots of talking, but I can't make that land. I'm not getting the conversion or that I need. Then Kat's definitely an awesome podcast to listen to. Also, obviously, have a bit of a dabble. She's got a lot of free stuff as well, so it's definitely worth having an interaction with her world.
Absolutely. You can definitely stick around and stay tuned for that one. It will be released this week. I have forgotten what day and time it gets released, but it definitely will be released
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
At least one of us knows what's going on. You already own the station.
I only just own the station. I forget even. So tomorrow at 6 p.m. So make sure you're listening then. We will have the audio and video up as well on Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, basically anywhere you get your good podcast. The audio versions on Spotify, the video versions on YouTube and Apple Music. And I do have to give a quick shout. You've also got Kelly King. I do have to just you forwarded a email onto me this morning, and the subject line says K King, Keyy King.
I know. I saw that go through. I thought, yeah, you'll cope. That was fine. You'll work it out.
I was like, I have to mention that because I don't know who actually put that as the subject heading, but
that was me.
That was you. Awesome.
Because Kelly sent it to me called photos and bios for show. I thought that'll get lost amongst all the other ones I've sent you, so I'm going to put a name on it. And it wasn't until I looked at it, I thought, oh, hang on a minute, there's a great typo there.
Oh, so
but that is such. But Kelly from Iconic Wealth is another one who's awesome. And interestingly, with that one, which will be next week's show, we talk very, very, very little about what she does within her business. Very little. I mean, she's a retirement wealth planner, fantastic at her job, but it's about her story and the mentorship she had along the way, and the value that show shares, and the mentoring that she's beginning to do for other people within her business, which is brilliant.
Well, it is interesting because, like I've known Kelly for, apparently since April. I've been a member of the Peel Chamber of Commerce, and she's absolutely lovely. I sent Josh to go and see her, and he can't stop talking about her to the point where I think he might have turned straight. So,
oh, gracious!
Like, Kelly, what have you done to my dad? but no, if you are serious about setting up your retirement fund or getting ready for retirement, hugely recommend Kelly King from Iconic Wealth. Listen to the podcast first, then decide whether you want to meet her.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about the Women in Business show that we've been talking about, is it's actually not a case, it's not an advertorial for the businesses that we're doing. We're not talking about what Kat does in Impactful Presenters. Though we do. It's about her story. It's how she got there. It's the journey that she's taken to just make these decisions around how she's coping with things in her business. Now, Impactful Presenters does talk a little bit more about the practical skills, because they're so relevant to how we show up. But Kelly and I just had a yarn for an hour about where she came from, and based in Kalgoorlie and bits and pieces. And that's a bit the same about the one you and I have done. It's just a bit of prattle on about all sorts of things.
Yep.
But we've got some fantastic guests coming up. I'm so excited. We have Belle Lockerbie, who is another person who is dear to me within my network. She has got this fantastic story. She's published 2 books. She's using that as a way to be seen and recognised in her niche. But she's chosen to go back to a corporate job at the moment, just very, very recently, which serves a purpose. So that's that whole thing around that. We've also got some other fantastic speakers coming up. Claire Gavellini, of course, who I think a lot of you will know if you listen to the Drive show when Jason does it. She's speaking about what she's done, and that the business, the side hustle she's building around advocacy and empowerment. Oh, God, there's that word again. Horrendous word. I'm trying to remember from my
Empowerment, the one that you
vocabulary.
don't like.
Empowerment. Blah.
Well, we look at the end of the day. Look, I think that's the thing.
Russell.
If we can listen to a podcast and then feel like, let's be honest, when I feel down, there's nothing better than listening to a podcast that is talking about struggling and talking about success and all that kind of stuff, because it does make you empowered. It makes you go, guess what? Get back up on your 2 feet, get back on that bus, get in the driver's seat, and chug a chug chug. I know that's a train sound, but like
I was thinking it was a beer sound actually.
Okay, well, I was thinking the train.
Also a show we've got coming up. Yeah.
So you know, it started with a bus, then triangles, now trains. Like, where else is this analogy going to go to? And beyond, of
Russell,
course.
as we've said before, there's different learners out there. Visualization, very important.
Well,
it helps our kinesthetic learners to understand our message.
Absolutely. You never know what stopper you're going to need.
Get off my bus. Yeah.
Now, we need to give a quick shout out, because your show could not be possible without some amazing people. Lance from EBATS, that's EBATS.au. Go check him out. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what Lance does?
Nah.
No?
No, of course I will. No, Lance is fantastic, actually. He, I must admit, there's nothing like pulling your entire physical network into your digital space. But I actually use Lance. He does my business account. And he's just fantastic. And the thing I love most about Lance is that you can have a conversation with him and there's zero judgment. You know how sometimes you feel like, particularly with accountancy and bookkeeping, when you're running a small business, there's that persona you have out in the world. Now, I'm not saying you don't turn up as authentically you, because you do, but there's that persona out there, there's that professionalism you like to maintain with how you interact with the rest of your network. And when you have an accountant or a bookkeeper, I, for a long time, made sure they were never part of my immediate network. And that was all about me, nothing about the accountants or the bookkeepers I knew, because it's like, if I'm having a crappy month, or I've gone down the road of going, I've had a really crappy month, and I've now got a payment plan in place for the ATO, which exists for a reason. You know, most of us have been there. I don't want to walk into a networking meeting and think, oh my God, he knows that I currently have no money. You know, it's a Jackie thing. It's got nothing to do with the professionalism, or I feel like the bookkeepers are speaking out of turn. That's not it. It's purely my, the dude in my head going, you've exposed, they can see your knickers. But with Lance, I can have those conversations, and he is part of my immediate network. I can have a conversation that says, hey, I'm not having my best month ever here. I might have a cash flow problem. What do you reckon? And he goes, okay, cool, let's have a look at it. We can do this, this, this. There's no, oh, really? You're a 6-figure business, dude. How you run out of cash? There's no judgment. There's no feeling like you're a numpty. Asking him the questions. He can do cash flow stuff. He can say, hey, what about this? Is this an opportunity? Have you thought of doing it this way? What the hell's happening to those costs over there? How on earth have you got a phone bill that big? You can have those conversations with Lance without feeling like there's an expectation that, dude, you should know better. This is his area of expertise. He knows what he's talking about. And it's so nice to have a conversation with him without feeling like I should know better, I should be doing better. And that is so valuable, because he literally can see under my skirt. He knows exactly what my business is doing. Where it's going, what my cash projections are. Have I got this? Can I do that? And it's just brilliant to have him on board. He's really part of the team, as opposed to, he's a team member which I don't have to pay full time. It's great.
It is really interesting, though, because we all struggle in our own way, and some struggle with health, some struggle with the ability to do some sales, or some struggle with mental health and all that kind of stuff. But yet we've taken on this gigantic, enormous bus that we are driving at what sometimes feels like 1,000 kilometers per hour, which is definitely above the speed limit. And
Not in the Northern Territory.
and we don't, and we're coming up to a roundabout, and we've got to go around the roundabout, but sometimes we kind of forget to turn. We could just flash over it. It is really interesting. And look, if you do have a spare hour in your day, tune in on Friday at 6 p.m. here on DRM1, because Women in Business will be live on here live as in pre-recorded live.
In Technicolor, but no.
And also you can catch it on the YouTube channel, Women in Business, so go check it out there, as well as on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and all other good podcast platforms, as well as on the DRM1 app as soon as it comes available on there. Jackie, it's been a pleasure as always to chat to you.
You too, Russell. Now, apparently, I have to call you Stuart before the end of the lesson. So my message says so. Thank you so much, Stuart. I really appreciated the opportunity to chat about the show. That's a bit of an in joke, but that's fine. People will work that out.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Thanks, Russ. I must admit, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and I am so excited to be part of the. It does. You really feel like part of the DRM1 family.
Well, let's be honest.
If I can add a little plug in,
go for it.
Using the Pod 2 platform, which I know is only in beta testing, and I spent half my time breaking it, has been so easy, and that's been really awesome about getting my other podcast up and running. Just so simple. All of the stuff I was fighting with before just doesn't exist. So thank you, from the bottom of my podcasting heart, for all of the work you've done in the background there, coding it. I appreciate that you are ChatGPT assisted, but that is okay. Is okay. That's how you get things done.
It still broke with ChatGPT, so Russell had to fix it. So technically, Russell coded it.
No. I appreciate it, but it is a great platform. So
Thank
for
you.
the podcasters who are out there, really, really, really awesome work, mate. And I look forward to making your ears bleed with further podcasts.
And breaking my system.
And breaking your system. It is my utmost pleasure.
It does only happen to you, though. That's the question.
I'm very special.
You are very special. Anyway, that is Jackie Campbell. You can find her at Arca Mirai, which is, and I've just lost Jackie's email, but it is A-R-I-C.
No. Stop.
Okay.
ARCAMORAI.
Sorry, I was on the ARIA website. So that's ARCAMORAI.com.au. And don't forget, if you want to go and check out her champion group, it's not called champion group. What's your membership group called?
Maximize your reach.
It should be called Champion Group.
Okay, we'll rename it just for you.
It might get a lawsuit from Champion, the clothing brand, but that's a different conversation. It's a fantastic group where you've got, about a handful of people in there at the moment, catching up every fortnight. And when a month is more than a fortnight, as in 5 weeks, there's an extra one. It's a fantastic thing. So if you do want to join the club and be part of a support group, then you can head over to arcamarai.com.au.
Support group? I'm not sure support group is quite how we'd like to characterize ourselves. Yeah, but it is a great community of people if you're looking at bringing your marketing and having support around that space and stepping up as being recognized as a leader in your niche.
You just said support. Look, it's really funny.
Yes, we open again very soon. Didn't you say goodbye to me?
Yes, we did. But I will just say this: but there is such thing as a good support group. There is a lot of AA meetings out there, but this is not like AA. This is this is actually a really good one. Look, honestly, I love hearing the successes.
We never start with "Hi, my name is Jackie, and I'm a small business owner. I've been corporate free for 18 months now.
No, we always start with, so what's the wins do we have on the board? And everyone tells their wins. So it's fantastic to hear people winning every single fortnight, because even if I'm not winning one fortnight, I know that there's some small things that I've done and it counted as a win. So yeah, sometimes you just need a good support group or a good mentoring group, whatever you want to call it, Jackie. You call
Community,
it
my friend, community.
Okay, there you go. Just a good family, hey, a good busload of people. Anyway,
A good busload of people. We'll take that.
we're going to get off this bus right now and head over outside where it's raining men. This is the Weather Girls. Stick around, stay tuned. There we go. We are